Mr Chair.
I call Chris Farford.
Thank you very much for a chance to take a second call to part one of the Standards Accreditation Bill. And I'd just like to take a few moments to respond to some of the comments made by the Minister. You get the distinct feeling with this bill that the government is taking a burn the village to save the village approach, because the Minister said in some of his remarks that one of the concerns as to why these changes in this bill needed to be made is that the former entity that looks after, or it's still current, Standards Council, lacked visibility. And that's one of the reasons why we need to make the changes and the structural changes within the council. So the government's recipe to cure the lack of visibility for the New Zealand Standards Council is to morph it into MB. Probably the biggest government department in New Zealand. It engulfed about 5 or 6 different ministries, has a current reputation for not being able to, not necessarily managing its money very well, and morphing the process and the body and the structure of the current New Zealand standard process into MB is the government's solution to that problem. Well, Mr Chair, I don't think that makes sense to me. I don't think that makes sense to people on this side of the House. And Mr Chair, it doesn't make sense to a number of the very, very experienced industry people, organisations that came and gave submissions to this piece of legislation. One of the interjections from across across the chamber has been to our argument around the independence or lack of it in this bill is to read the legislation. And to give Mr Hudson his due, there is provision, fleeting provision in this bill, to give a degree of independence to the New Zealand Standards Executive. But what happened during the select committee process is we had a number of submitters come through, a lot of them industry people, and their voice has been completely and utterly ignored around their concerns around independence. And I think it's really important, given that we thought that the government members on that select committee might listen to those submitters, take those messages back to the Minister and say, hey, we may have got it wrong here, Minister. A lot of the industry submitters are saying this is not the right thing to do. We may have to rethink the structure. So we may have expected some supplementary order papers to wholeheartedly amend the bill, but Mr Chair, that isn't in front of us. The 2 SOPs that we have in front of us are purely technical ones to change very small details, technical details within the bill. So Mr Chair, I think in this committee stage it's appropriate for this side of the House to give those people or those organisations within the industry their voice to make sure that we can flag that they said that this was the wrong thing to do, Mr Chair. And I'd like to take one example, and that is the Building Industry Federation, an organisation that I would hope that the government would have listened to and its concerns around this bill. In its opening comments in its submission, Mr Chair, the Building Industry Federation says that the intent of the government to move standard setting from an independent body with a high level of private sector governance input to one administered by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Development, or MB as we know, was not greeted with enthusiasm by many in the building industry. Now, if I was the National Party and the New Zealand Building Industry Federation had that as their opening line in their submission to this bill, I'd be a little bit concerned. They're not a small organisation. They cover a very important function in our country. So I'd be a little bit concerned with their opening remarks. Then we get to their comments around independence. And Mr Hudson has said that yes, the bill does cater for independence, but let's look at the reality of what might be the case within MB. And I think this was a very brave submission from the Building Industry Federation, because they went on to say, Mr Chair, in their submission, that with the New Zealand Standards Executive, that the international best practice has historically been to allocate standard-setting functions to industry. The required technical expertise is principally found within the ranks of day-to-day practitioners within the sectors to be covered. Further, standard setting should not be subject And Mr Chair?
Chris Bishop.
Oh, Mr Chair.
The question is that the question be now put. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Party votes called for. Ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
2 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Members, the ayes are 63, the noes are 58. The question will be put. We first have the Minister's amendments to Part 1 as set out on SOPs number 90, 96 and transcript amendment to Clause 26. The question is that the amendments be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Party votes called for. Ask the clerk to conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
2 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Members, the ayes are 61, the noes are 60. The amendments are agreed to. The question now is that Part 1 is amended. Stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. So, party votes called for. Ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
2 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Members, the ayes are 61, the noes are 60. Part 1 is amended, will stand part. Members, we now come to Part 2. This is debate on clauses 39 to 44 and schedules 2 to 5. And the question is